Alright guys, let's talk Pygame motion just really briefly. So this feels pretty similar to processing, so if you've taken the intro class, this will be just a breeze for you. If you haven't taken the intro class, there's a whole YouTube playlist of mine with videos for how to make motion work and wrapping and all sorts of graphic stuff. If you want to look into that, it should be pretty easy to convert to this. Otherwise, let me just go through here quick. I just want to make this little circle move across the screen. And a couple of things. Me rewriting colors over and over again as tuples is getting kind of, frankly, annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically name the colors. Right, so just, I guess I should probably do it after I start the Pygame module and before I set the screen resolution, because that seems like a good spot for it. So I'm going to set some colors. So red is going to be this one, and then we'll just tell the screen to fill with red, and then this one here is green. So we're going to set a green here. And then we're going to call this guy on green, right? Hopefully this makes sense. These are just variables that I'm storing, right? So they're just a tuple. I'm calling them something. It's just to shorten my code up a little bit. You know, if you have a favorite shade of brown, you're going to call that, you know, favorite brown or whatever. Okay, so right now what I have going, this is identically this started as identically the Pygame intro sketch. Let's see, I have probably a white space concern. Try that again. All right, so this line here, screen.fill red, this sets the background color. Background to red. Now, it probably should be noted, if I run this, I should get a red background and a green circle on it. Now, I think if I take this guy and put it here, I'm kind of expecting it to, draw a green circle and then draw a red background over the top, right? So it executes in order. So just be a little careful with it. If you're familiar with processing, you know this is exactly the same thing that processing does. So just be careful that your screen fill goes kind of towards the top, right? That's the background. You can even just alias this thing if you want. So if you don't want to keep calling screen fill, I might do something like this where I rename some functions. Right, so, and rename is a crappy word there. We should really use the computer science word, which is alias, right? So I'm going to alias some functions. So I'm going to alias background is going to be screen.fill. Pretty sure that one will work. I'm going to alias circle is going to be this thing. Right, so I'm just renaming some functions. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along, basically, right? What that's going to let me do is that's going to let me just, instead of typing pygame.draw.circle, I can just type circle. If I want to do a screen fill, I can do background. This is basically just because those words make more sense to me. And let me switch that order back. Okay. All right. See, same, works exactly the same way. If you want to move something, you need to change the position, right? So this is the position variable here. So if I want to move it, I'm going to say, for one thing, I'm going to make this thing a little smaller. So that's the radius part, right? So I'm setting the radius down a little bit. That's going to make it a little smaller. And then I'm going to take this position, right? And I'm going to start changing that. So I'm going to put a variable called x in there. And then up here a bit, right? Like after I alias some function, I'm going to make a movement variables, right? And in my case, that's just going to be the one variable. It's going to be the horizontal position. I'm going to start it at 100, right? And then in the loop, right, the part where we go round and round and round, I'm just going to, before it listens for events, right, because I don't need it to listen for this, I just need it to do it. I'm going to do x plus equals 1, right, and then x will increase as we go. Okay, now this probably isn't going to work because I've made some choices. So let me hit go here. Okay, so my circle is smaller, but it's not moving. Okay, so the reason it's not moving, let me just do a little diagnostic here, right? So if you're not sure why something's happening, try printing it out, see what's going on, right? Okay, so clearly x is increasing, but the circle's not moving. Circle's not moving because I'm drawing the circle here, right, and the background, not in the loop, right? So even though I'm updating the display, I'm never actually changing the position of the circle here because it just got drawn once at the beginning of the program when x was 100. And then even though x is increasing, it's not redrawing that circle. So it's not like looking around for objects that got moved. It's just very faithfully looping through this thing. So if I want to move the circle, I should take the circle drawing part, right, and put it in here. And I have a tendency to do this in a very specific order for very specific reasons. So I have a tendency to move objects and then draw them, and then check if they hit each other. So if you don't do it in that order, right, if you do the check before the draw, then it looks like things aren't hitting one another. Like Flappy Bird is notorious for this, actually. That's why it always looks like you're hitting those pipes even though you haven't. It says you're hitting the pipes even though you haven't. The reason that it's doing that is that it's updating the collide method before it updates the draw. And so you will hit it in the next frame. It's inevitable. But you haven't, it doesn't look like you've hit it yet. So people hate that crap. I mean, they love Flappy Bird for whatever reason, but they hate that feature. So what you want to do is make sure you do move, draw, collide in that order. Okay, so I'm moving my circle in here now, right? I was doing that before, but now I'm going to also draw it at its new position, and I'm going to toss my diagnostic print line. So let me save that. Let's run it. I have two problems. One, I have some kind of probably a linter error, and then the other problem is that the circle moved, but the background never updated. Well, the background never updated because I never told the background to update, right? I moved the circle, but I didn't change the background. Okay, so if you want to move the background, then you need to take this part and put it in here. And notice that I'm going to do the background wipe at the top of the screen. Sorry, at the top of the while loop. And that's because I want to wipe the background right off the bat. So this is going to wipe the background with red, right? So that's going to fill, right? It's going to start a new frame by drawing the red background, and then it's going to afterwards update my circle. If you put this background wipe towards the end, then it'll draw the circle, but then it'll wipe it before it updates the window, and so you'll never see it. All right, and I'm sure that's whining about too many empty lines. Okay, cool, circle, moving, great, awesome. This is kind of a bare minimum working example, right? You really should wrap all this stuff up in objects and then use methods to move things around, which is much better, much preferable, by the way. When I'm making objects for this kind of thing, I always have the three methods that I was talking about before. So my three methods are a move method, a display method, and a collide method. And the collide method's kind of optional because maybe you're not hitting stuff, maybe you're just drawing things in the background. Okay, so if you feel like using Pygame to make stuff, feel free. If you've had lots of experience with processing, this is pretty chill. Feel free to re-alias things to the processing equivalents. If you really, really want to, you can import processing.py instead, but it would be good to get some, if you've already had a bunch of experience with processing, it probably is better to get experience with something else. And so I would recommend learning a little Pygame. It's not super hard. It's actually pretty darn cool. And it gives you a lot more control over the back end than processing does. So there is some utility here, even though things seem a little clunkier. So have at it, roughly. Good luck.